Good evening, everyone. Would you please give us a minute while we wait for our administrative assistant to be here? Thank you. I'll now call the regular meeting of the Board of Education to order at 7:02 p.m. Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Rollins?
Here.
Ms. Mohammed?
Here.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Here.
Mr. Siegel?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 7 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Fromm. We'll now take a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. As we start each board meeting, we'd like to remind everyone of the mission of the Rockford Public Schools, which is to collaboratively engage all students in a first-class education for a changing world. Before we go any further, I'd like to thank Connor Childers. He's working behind the scenes to produce the board's broadcast via YouTube live stream and Comcast Channel 20. Thank you, Connor. I also wish to welcome, I have one, right? The Superintendent's Student Advisory Council has been begun to join us. So we're going to have a member here each of our meetings and have an opportunity to hear what they think of the goings on of the board and what it's like, what happens with the business of education in this district. And so, let's see, do I have Isabella, right? Okay, and Isabella Hernandez is from Auburn High School. So welcome and thank you for being here. We are now on to the petitions and communications portion of our meeting, when we invite the public to make comments. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees the right of citizens to petition their government as well as provides for freedom of speech. Also, the Illinois School Code requires that there be a time at regular and special meetings for public comment. Thus, we are following these mandates during the petition and communications portion of our agenda. According to Board Policy 2.230, the public comments portion of the meeting is limited to a total of 30 minutes. The board will not respond to comments at this time. If it is appropriate, you will be contacted in a timely manner by staff in response to your questions. In order to allow sufficient time for the business of the board and conduct our meetings in an efficient and effective manner, We are requesting that you comply with the guidelines that are posted, and each speaker will be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address the board. And at the 2-minute mark, I will let you know so that you can be done. It's not appropriate to address individual board members or individual administrators or discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential in such open meetings. 2 names will be called at one time, the one whose turn it is to speak, and the person who will speak next. When you are the second person, please come to the front and sit in a vacant chair. That way we'll be able to devote the maximum amount of time to public comment. If you look to your left, you'll see the 2 digital clocks. One shows the total time allotted to public comment, and the other shows the total time for each speaker. Thank you so very much for your interest and for your cooperation with our guidelines. And I will do my very best with names. So please forgive me if I'm not right on the money with them. Tajan, and you'll help me when you get up here, please, Miss James. You will be first. And second to wait in the chair is Kenya Parks Collins. I think we need to turn the mic on, please, if somebody would. Thank you. And you do need, for everybody's edification, the masks have to stay on as you speak, please. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Tajiana James. I am a senior at Roosevelt High School, and I'll be talking to you all about the disciplinary action that have taken place in the past. The disciplinary actions in our RPS 205 need to be revised. There's some understanding that some actions will have to result in spending some time away from the classroom or outside of the school, but that shouldn't be for everything. The discipline shouldn't be aimed at one race or gender either. Our schools need more educated and understanding educators. We need people that care about their students in their community. And my fellow peers and I will be following up within the next few weeks. If we could set up a meeting with the administration, we would like to discuss possible solutions to this problem. If not, we will be at the next board meeting addressing this issue again until we see change. Thank you for allowing my voice to be heard.
Could you please, and thank you for being here, could you please tell me your names since I didn't?
Tajiana James.
Tajiana, thank you so much. And thank you. We do like students' voice, so thank you. And next up is Kenya Parks Collins, and then Vicki Anderson will be after that.
Hi, my name is Kanaya Parks Collins. I'm a junior at Guilford High School, and I'm also here to talk about the disciplinary actions. Detentions and in-school suspensions are not the only way to resolve issues within students. Being taken away from your learning environment or social environment doesn't help students understand their behavior needs to be corrected, or it doesn't show them how to correct their behaviors. It just shows them that the school doesn't care about their education, so why should they? It dims their motivation. People of color's anger shouldn't be taken and treated as a threat. Anger is a form of expression that is always allowed and welcome until it's coming from a person of color. We all know that threats should result in stronger discipline. So in order to correct this issue, we need our teachers to be educated. We need the discipline to be decided based on the situation and the issues rather than the race or the gender. And the stereotypes that lingers in the air should also be dimmed within educating the students and the teachers. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Vicki Anderson, followed by Lydia Gonzalez.
Hello. Because my comments on critical race theory at the last board meeting were longer than the 2-minute limit, I decided to return tonight and finish. I did learn after the last meeting that this district has not implemented critical race theory at this time. I commend you for that. 2 years ago, my father passed away, and I, as the oldest of his children, had to settle his estate. The legal assistant for my attorney told me several times as I worked through my father's financial affairs, you and your siblings are not responsible for any of his debts. The state cannot touch your family trust fund to pay his debts. That reminds me of a truth that I feel applies here. The next generation is not responsible for the debts or wrongs of previous generations. Critical race theory blames people of this generation for events we had no part in. History is history. It cannot be changed. However, all of us are responsible for what we do to impact, for good or bad, the history that is being made while we are alive. Why promote a history curriculum that stirs up new resentment between students? Young people can learn from the past, but be encouraged to influence American history in positive ways during their lifetimes, working to show respect and appreciation for all people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for coming back. We have Lydia Gonzalez, thank you, and Brenda Schluter will be up next.
Hi, my name is Lydia Gonzalez, and I really disagree with the text yesterday I get about the testing any week and by seeing for after-school program and sport program because it is not recommended for children because the OMS say that is create cardiovascular problems with kids. And my son is in after-school program. No more after-school program. Since I get the text for me, this is the violating the individual's right and the constitutional because any requirement is over the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda will be next, followed by Sarah Darner. It's Dorner, isn't it? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us speak. I'm here as a representative of the paraprofessionals at Easter Seals Academy, where many of your students attend. I am here to ask the school board to apply pressure to Easter Seals to fully staff us. Our staffing situation is at a critical point. Your students are not receiving, excuse me, they are not receiving the services that you are paying for. And it's becoming dangerous for both staff and students because they do not wish to pay us what we're worth, so we're losing staff. We cannot attract new staff, and you are paying millions of dollars, excuse me, for services that are not being rendered. So we're asking you to please put pressure on Easter Seals to pay us a living wage, settle our contract so that we can keep our staff and attract new staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Sarah Dorner, followed by Pinky Langdon.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Dorner. You know me as the staff representative for AFSCME Council 31, representing RPS 205 paraprofessionals, school bus drivers, and nutrition service workers. But I promise you I'm not here about that today. Although I do want to take just a quick couple seconds and tell you that I got a little sentimental here tonight because I have thought of you so much, all of you on the school board, the last, almost 2 years now, as you've had to make some really difficult decisions. And I know many times you have asked yourself, is this the right thing to do, to close the schools, to go remote or go back in person? And so I just wanted to commend you and thank you for your work. The reason we're here tonight is RPS 205 does pay Easter Seals McChesney Park millions of dollars, 2.1 in 2020 and 1.6 in 2019, over $1 million in 2018 as well, to educate students whose needs cannot be accommodated in the traditional school setting. But you need to know these workers organized a union in October 2019. We've been in negotiations negotiations for a first union contract since then, and the employer has on the table wage increases of 3 cents an hour for most of the employees, ranging up to 60 cents. That's it. This is an environment where workers and students are being injured on the job. They only hired 1 person in 2020, according to their own material and data provided to me. So clearly what they're paying is not working. We are asking you to please advocate for a fair contract for these workers so that they can do the work that you are actually paying for them to do, fulfill the IEPs, and give the students an education. Thank you so much for your time.
And thank you. Our last speaker, I believe it's my last card, yep, is Pinky Langdon, please.
Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I want to say that I have a strong voice, so I am not yelling. I have really good lungs. I'm not here under malice. This is who I am, okay? I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I do work with several organizations, but tonight I'm here as the chair for the NAACP Education Committee. And I'm not always able to come to the meetings because my husband is very ill. So sometimes when he's in the hospital, I can't come in because you can't get in the hospital after a certain time. So I watch your meetings online, and I would like to ask if you could check your sound quality because it sounds very muffled, and it makes it hard for me to understand what's going on because I'm not here. The second thing I would like to talk about is the school bus shortage. I have a question, and I left my information so anyone can reach back to me. Why is it when there's a shortage, the high-income zip codes get the busing, but the low-income, the ones who really need it, that parents usually don't have a vehicle, can't go? Now, I know this because my husband used to be a bus driver for 205. Speaking of which, a complaint came across my desk saying that there is a teacher at Guilford who is very freely using the N-word. Now, we have this young lady that just spoke about unfairness. I went to an all-white school. My family was the only black school, students there. So I understand the cultural differences. So that is something that I would like to have someone reach back out to me about. And then the last thing I would like to talk about is the equities team. Where are they? What are they doing? Why haven't we heard from them? And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're now on to, and thank you to everyone who spoke. We're on to board member comments. Are there any board member comments? Mr. Siegel?
Thank you. First, I especially want to thank the 2 students who came to speak tonight. And I want to thank everybody else who came to speak. This was an example of how a community is to engage with its representation. I think you all did a great job, and I really appreciate your voices and your input, so thank you. Today, we had a gathering at Constance Lane Elementary School. Representative Maurice West was there to share a proclamation from the House of Representatives to celebrate what would have been the 100th birthday of Constance Lane. You know, the school bears her name. A few years ago, we had a lengthy process of naming the school, and in that process, I contacted people who had some sort of a relationship with her, people who were hired by her, students who were educated by her, and found that she had left this tremendous legacy, not only of a brilliant mind, but an equally great heart. This is an educator who prided herself on knowing every one of her students by name, standing at the front door of the school, greeting every student who came in by name. And that is a remarkable thing. And I think it's a great example that an educator can give. The greatest thing about this event, though, were the students who got to tell the story of her life. Because in so doing, they continue to let Constance Lane's legacy go and live. So it was really a great event, and I appreciate Representative West and his efforts in celebrating Constance Lane. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to first thank all of the community members that are here on tonight, specifically our young ladies that spoke, our students. I think it is commendable that you all are here and have shared your voice. And I can't express enough how important it is for community engagement. So thank you for making the time to be here. I would also like to acknowledge our lunchroom aid workers. Many of them are retired that have gone back and gone to the schools to be of assistance. And one specifically would be Mrs. Gloria Locke. I've heard a lot of positive feedback within the community in regards to her connecting with our students, offering that emotional support and social support. And I just want to thank them all for your service. Thank you.
Ms. Muhammad.
Thank you. So I just want to piggyback off of my fellow board members by thanking everybody for coming today and for expressing your concerns, especially our students. It's very important that you guys let us know what it is that is important to you, so that way we can make sure that as board members that we're properly representing our constituents. So thank you again, you all, for coming. I've been trying to give shout outs every few board meetings regarding the different principals that I've been meeting with during my time on the board, because for me it's educational, but I think that it's important for the community to hear as well about a lot of the awesome things that are going on in these buildings, because just oftentimes people don't know unless you have students there. So the first principal that I want to acknowledge is Mr. Gus Carter from Guilford High School. Mr. Carter, I appreciate you taking time out of your hectic schedule to give me a tour, to let me know about all of the impressive programs that you guys have going on. I especially enjoyed seeing that you guys have a Viking credit union. I think that that presence is very important in the school to not only teach our students about financial literacy, but I see that there's also an opportunity for us to duplicate that in other schools as well. So again, thank you, Mr. Carter, for that. Next up, I have two principals from early childhood buildings. So Bayer, I took a tour, and also Summerdale. So at Bayer, Mrs. Blackwell and also their AP Karen showed me around. I appreciate just them allowing me to see the hard work that they put in on a day-to-day basis with our young children. Also, I want to thank Anquinette Parham from the City of Rockford for introducing me to her Head Start team and them showing me about the life skills that they teach our students as well that I was never aware of. So good job to the team at Bayer. Next up, Summerdale, we have the principal, Doc Locke. Ms. Locke, I appreciate you for just physically showing me the affirmations that you visually put on your walls. I think it's important for students to be able to have life spoken into them throughout their educational day, and also just seeing the priority for the social emotional activities that they have coming on board. I think that that's really cool to see, and I'm excited to hear that they have had their first meeting with their PTO, and I hope that I will have more involvement with that in the future. And lastly, I want to shout out Kennedy Middle School, Mrs. Trevita Redmond. Thank you so much for being very transparent with me in terms of what your needs are as far as staff and students go. I appreciate the representation that Kennedy offers to our students that attend Kennedy, and I'm also looking forward to working more with the staff there in the future to get more community involvement in our schools.
Thank you. Hand up if I'm not seeing a light, because you know how the green. I'm just going to take, we're not supposed to respond to speakers, but we have your cards. People will get back to you. We are entering the phase where we are going to review our discipline code. There will be meetings scheduled. So instead of meeting with individuals from the board or wherever, we can take your information, and hopefully you would participate in those meetings. And that is a great place for your voice to be had, because that's the start to change on the discipline code as for the next year. I'd also like to I just want to acknowledge Easter Seals. You guys know, I know you firsthand what you're dealing with out there, and God bless you for the work and for staying. And even though you're short-staffed, they're just such special kids that are there, but they're not easy. So thank you, thank you. I was at some Bayer today. I don't know. Dr. Jarrett might speak to the. Ms. Bustos, if you would, so that I don't take up too much airtime. The question about the buses, you know, busing is so difficult, and the whole idea that any particular group is getting, it's masterful to me that Mr. Schleif has been able to figure out with a shortage of buses how we're going to get the most students to school every day, and especially when we have absences. And I know that that we have targeted, I'm going to use that word, we have really focused. Heidi Detman always says, is it the flashlight thing? Or somebody says that, Susan says, we have really focused on our students who have the most difficult time with transportation and not limiting their bus routes. So I'm not sure, and we do have, again, we have names and we'll contact you. There was a question about equity. We have an equity officer, so hopefully there'll be follow-up going forward. So seeing no others, I'm going to hand the floor to Dr. Jarrett for superintendent comments.
Thank you, and again, I appreciate all the outpouring of speaking comments we had this evening. I also want to acknowledge just major gratitude to Representative West for acknowledging the amazing contributions of Constance Lane. That was a really powerful event, and we had 4 student speakers that supported his presentation and proclamation. Really was one of the highlights of my day. Mrs. McCulloch did ask that I speak a little bit about the time we spent at Bayer shortly thereafter with Representative Bustos talking about potential early childhood universal expansion. And we really attempted in that time with Representative Bustos to advocate for additional funding flexibility, full transportation as part of the process, as well as potential facilities matching, all of which would make universal early childhood more of a possibility. Without those 3 elements, we would struggle to effectively expand the program, even if we had some additional dollars tied to staffing. And I want to thank Isabella for being here again, and looking forward to hearing from our Superintendent Student Advisory Council representatives at next week's board meeting. You'll also be hearing from me talking a little bit more about the system-wide framework. So I'll be doing a little more formal presentation next week. So with that, I would think it would be time to move on to the meeting. Thank you, Mrs. McCulloch, and thank you, board.
Thank you. We're now on to action items that proceeded through the Performance and Monitoring Committee. We have the fiscal year 2021 audited financial statements. Is there a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
No?
Second.
Excuse me, I'm being told that we're not doing that one. We're back on. So I heard David, I hear Michael. So thank you so much. I have a motion and a second, and any discussion? Other than great job, Finance Department, for the work that you're doing. All right, please call the roll.
I apologize. Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Mr. Connor, or I know Ms. Stanford, is there any follow-up on any of the items presented at that meeting of the Committee of the Whole?
I don't believe so.
Okay, seeing none, we're on to items that proceeded through the Planning and Development Committee. Mr. Rollins, please present your item.
So the first item is the determination of 2021 tax levies. Based on discussions at the Committee of the Whole, administration has updated the 2021 tax levy to exclude new property and CPI for the determination of the tax levy. The determination is the estimated tax levy, which is required to be adopted at least 20 days prior to the date the board adopts the final levy. The updated estimated levy is attached in your packet for approval. So tonight we are approving the estimated tax levy, excluding new property and CPI, And then the final tax levy will be brought back to the board for a vote at the December 14th, 2021 board meeting. Does anybody like to make a motion to approve the estimated? Is there a
Second.
discussion?
Would you like to call the roll then on the estimated tax levy for 2021? Item 6A.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Rollins, do you have follow-up any other items?
And the only follow-up I've got is on the bond refunding. At the committee of the whole meeting, we had said, or administration had said, that that would be brought to the board in December. They have asked to move that up to November 16th. So we've added an agenda item to the November 16th, 2021 board meeting for Stiefel Public Finance to begin working on the bond refunding process. As Ms. Noble explained during her presentation last week, the entire process will take approximately 3 months. So that'll be coming to us at our next board meeting next week.
Any questions on that? Or all right, thank you, Mr. Rollins.
That's all I have.
Then we're on to items that proceeded through the governance committee. So 7A was board policy 5.270. Is there a motion and a second to approve that policy?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Do you have a question? Okay. Seeing none, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right. The next 4 items, we'll take them independently. There's 7, B, C, D, and E, the resolutions for the Illinois Association of School Boards. The first one, number 1, is the pre-service teacher and licensure and literacy. Is there a motion and a second to support the IAS?
So moved.
Okay. And this is to support the IASB's position on requiring competency requirements to obtain certain teaching licenses. So I have a motion, and do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion? I just want to make sure everybody knows that we're voting on these to see if we support what the IASB has put out there to adopt or not adopt. That's how I'm giving them to you. And only if there is something that we disagree with will we have to vote differently at the convention. So please call the roll.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we will support their contention to adopt. Number 2 is student safety and protection plan. I'm looking for a motion and a second to support.
So moved.
Thank you. The position on allowing local school boards the option of developing student safety and protection plans, which allow voluntary district employees in any capacity the ability to carry a concealed firearm on district property. I have a motion. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Mr. Connor?
Yep, I said this before, but I'll say it again. First of all, I hope everybody realizes that these are recommendations to the legislature, that IASB, which is the Illinois Association of School Boards, only recommends to the legislature. So whether we support this or not, the legislature is the one that's going to have to say yes or no to this. So, and that's true for all 4 of the resolutions. So this one, and I couldn't be here last time, and thank you to Ms. Stanford for doing the performance and monitoring committee. and I said this pretty much at the time before, but I'm going to repeat this because we're doing the vote tonight. It's called Student Safety and Protection Plan, but make no mistake, this is about one thing and one thing only, which is to allow local school boards to make their own decisions. So I want to say that again, because I know there's been a lot of rhetoric around this one, but I'm going to say it again. The only issue on the table here is, can local school boards make their own decisions? And so the fact from my standpoint is that this was proposed by a very small county, Mercer County, where they have the situation where if a situation occurred in one of their schools, they don't have officers within like 15 or 30 minutes from that school. And so they would like the option to vote to do this themselves as a school district. And so in the language on this one, it says that this resolution is about local control, one of the IASB's top priorities. So voting no on this is basically saying we know more than local school boards, because that's exactly what the effect is. It says there are a lot of rules and regulations on this one, and so what I'll say is that the last point that they make is that local school board members live in their communities and know them better than anyone else. So I will say this, I was absolutely almost shocked that the IASB recommended that this go forward, because that's not typically what they do. But I'm going to say I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this. I won't even go into the Second Amendment arguments in favor of this, but I will say that this really comes down to local control. So I'm going to vote yes on this.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes, so I just want to reiterate, as I foreshared, let me add, some items should not be, the power should not be given to the local. Some, in many instances, there needs to be an accountability, and in this case, it should not be a local controlled. I expressed my concerns about some worst case scenarios should this be permitted, and it really concerns me the thought of our staff having guns on our school campus, and that we must hold a standard for our administrators as we do our students. And for that reason, I would vote no.
Mr. Siegel?
I'm actually going to split the difference between these two and say that they already have a local choice. And since their rationale is the safety and protection of our students and school staff is one of the top priorities, it would seem like they could figure out their intergovernmental agreement game better than they have, and just go ahead and say, put their money where their mouth is. If this is a big priority for them, okay. They have a way to generate their own local revenues to get what they need. But above that, there have been accommodations offered to this community from the state to even help out. They just need to figure out how to staff and keep their SROs with the flexibility that is being offered to them, or they just need to decide to really show how much of a priority student safety is and raise the money. I'm going to be voting no. They do have a local choice.
Mr. Rollins?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I agree with Mr. Stiegel on this. They specifically say in there that they've offered to fund it 100%, and the Sheriff's Department hasn't been able to staff it. I want to make very clear here, I would never vote to do this in Rockford, but Rockford's a different situation. We have resource officers in all of our secondary schools, and we have a pretty robust police presence, and they're never more than a couple of minutes away from any school in this community. And I grew up in a rural area in a consolidated school district that probably looks a lot like this. And, the police aren't necessarily all that close to the schools. I just don't feel comfortable telling other school districts that they can't do this if they think that this is their only option. Even if I were in a rural school district, I'd have some real doubts. I don't know that I'd vote for it even in a rural school district, but I don't think it's really up to me to decide. So I'll vote in favor of it.
Anyone else? I'll ask you to call the roll.
Mr. Siegel?
No.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
No.
Ms. Pearson?
No.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
No.
Mrs. McCulloch?
No.
The motion fails by 5 noes, 2 yeses.
So that one, again, and thank you so much, Mr. Connor. I think you did a great job of elucidating that these are recommendations that will go to the legislature, and it still could go to the legislature depending on how the vote goes on the floor, and our district would be voting against it. So Resolution 3, school board member compensation. Is there a motion and a second to support the IASB's position, namely that school board members should serve without compensation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Pearson?
Yes, for those who did not hear my comment, I was definitely appreciative of Mr. Rollins' comments in terms of service, public service. And I did point out the equity piece that was associated with it. Not that I would necessarily vote that board members get paid, but I wanted to bring the attention to the equity portion of it. Thank you.
Mr. Connor?
So I'm going to call this, if you'll forgive me for using a statement that we used in the original Iraq War, this is the mother of all stupid ideas. I'm sorry, I'm not sure I can understand why that aldermen are paid, county board members are paid, that there's a lot of, quote, public servants that are paid, but park districts, school boards, and library boards are not paid, and that's a law. And I'm just going to say that you don't do this for money, trust me. But the fact is, I find it, and I'm going to say this, insulting that those other public officials get paid and they don't do any more work than we do, okay? So I think for us, I just can't rationalize that we would vote for something that says, the hours of this, it's like a part-time job. And I will just tell you this, how stupid are we? We take our own money and we have to raise money and go out there to win these seats and we don't get paid. And I'm going to tell you right now, we listen, and over the last year, if you've been to any board meetings and you've heard the discussions, there's a lot of stuff that is said to us and to our district in general that are way out of line, and so we have to listen to that. So I'm just going to say this. If people want to feel good about themselves, you go ahead and you vote for this. But I'm definitely voting against this because what I'm going to say is, for everybody who takes their time to do this, I don't think your time is less valuable than your alderman, than your county board member, and everybody else that gets paid for doing it.
Anybody else have a light on? No. And I'm sorry you missed the meeting, Mr. Connor, because I thought Ms. Pearson was pretty eloquent about why she just brought it to our attention. And I've actually had a lot of conversations with people about the fact that it does change the demographics of a school board when you have to miss work, when you need childcare. It is different, and it's in some ways exclusionary, just because of that doesn't mean I'm going to support it, because I also believe in this form of democracy that we have. But I do now understand why it has been raised, and it makes sense. But as the IASB has said, we really need to focus the money on students. They did talk a little bit about supporting having childcare and some other supports for board members who would need that. And by the way, I think those aldermen, they all get medical too, don't they, on top of getting paid? So if you vote for this, that would be the IASB committee has already said voted to not adopt it. So if you vote against this, you will be in line with what they are recommending. But please call the roll. Wait. Are you
confused everyone?
No. Just vote whether or not we'll know what to send them forward. So IASB has already voted to not adopt this. So their resolutions committee is bringing it. They haven't voted. I apologize. Their resolutions committee has put forward their recommendation to not adopt this. And so if we have a vote that we think we should adopt this, it will be like the gun one. It'll be the opposite of what the district is, or what the IASB is recommending.
So if someone votes yes, well, how are you taking that vote? Is the vote?
Not get paid.
Okay. Is everybody clear on that? Okay.
Excuse me. I think that needs some clarity for the purpose of the community.
So the recommendation is to not adopt the resolution. So if we vote yes, we are recommending not to adopt the resolution.
No. Just vote directly on the resolution. Here's the question.
Well, I'm glad I asked the question.
Yes. That you are voting, the motion is, and the second, to support.
Can I take a shot at this?
Yes.
Think of the Illinois School Board Association as the administration. And the administration had to bring something forward that they are not recommending. So when you vote, consider it in those terms. So it's a little strange. Normally, you're used to voting on things that were recommended. In this case, because a school district brought this forward, there was a committee that vetted it, and the committee said, we don't think this is a good idea, but it still goes to all of the boards to take a general vote. So I think that's what Mrs. McCulloch was attempting to. But at the end of the day, really what you need to do as a board is just vote yes or no if you think it's a good idea, and then that will let Ms. Pearson and or Ms. Mohammed know what to do when they represent us at the meeting.
So effectively, if you vote yes on this, you are saying yes to have compensation?
No, you would be saying yes, the school board should not be compensated.
Wait, what?
Does anyone have it?
The IASB is not recommending, the resolution is not to recommend a compensation. So it's the last sentence, Tim.
Yeah, but what if let's just do it so we all understand, and then.
But the resolution, which everybody just said, if you're voting yes, you're voting for the resolution. The resolution is to provide for reasonable compensation for school board members.
So you should vote, that's what the resolution says.
That is what the resolution says.
It doesn't matter what they adopt or not adopt.
Read the first paragraph, be it resolved.
A school district made this recommendation. The committee said, no, it's not a good idea, but you still get to vote on it anyway.
Yes.
So you vote yes, and you vote yes for compensation.
Let's just decide what a yes vote
And that's
means.
what I just said. We're just going to decide. So if
That's
you
what it
vote
says.
yes, you say yes to compensation. If you vote no, you
Cool.
say no to compensation. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Call the roll. And then we will draft the right language moving forward. Thank you. Good question, Mr. Rollins. Please call the roll.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Ms. Stanford,
No, wait a minute.
No.
Mr. Connor.
You want to know, Mike?
You want no. Just believe me.
I'm sorry, no,
maybe we should
because you
say
just
paid or
said,
not paid.
if I vote yes, it's the yes for compensation, which is,
Oh, you want compensation.
He didn't want compensation, Mike. No, he does.
I do.
Oh!
Hello? Did you, I know people don't listen when I speak,
I
but holy
listened.
God,
No, I
how
listened
could
to
you
you.
miss that?
I thought
Holy
you
crap.
were like, all right.
Really?
So Mike, yeah.
When I said, why don't we deserve to be paid and the county board and aldermen do, that didn't sink in that I was saying, Jesus, sorry.
But it's
Okay.
clear now. Okay.
Holy Christ.
You're a yes.
I'm a yes.
All right, go for it. And next on the list.
Ms. Stanford,
No.
Ms. Pearson,
I vote yes for equity.
Mr. Rollins,
No.
Ms. Mohammed,
Yes, I think there should be compensation.
Mrs. McCulloch,
No.
Mr. Siegel,
Man, I'm feeling like having a Bill Clinton moment. It depends on what you mean by the meaning of yes or no. I'm going to vote no.
Okay.
the motion fails by 4 noes, 3 yeses.
All right. It didn't pass, but it supports what the IASB is.
The motion
I think we
supports
got
the
it.
IASB recommendation.
There you go. Okay, you think we can get through one more of these? This one's on sex education. This is the IASB's resolution number 9, health and sex education curriculum. Is there a motion and a second to support the position that local school districts should maintain control of content and curriculum for health and sex education courses offered in their districts?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, discussion on this one.
So,
Mr. Connor?
Yeah, I hate to be consistent, but again, this is about local control, and the local community should have the final words on whatever is taught, whatever is in the schools. So, yes, in principle and practical fact, having local control, from my view, is absolutely necessary.
Are there any other conversations? I do agree with you on this one, Mr. Connor. Ms. Pearson, is
Yes, so I would say this. I think it is very important that parents communicate with their educators and/or administration and get a clear understanding. This is vital in terms of community engagement. So many times decisions are made and we never hear from the community until after the fact in many cases. So, and this resolution is associated with Senate Bill, as some call it 818 or 0818, which is a very detailed bill. I would encourage our district and maintaining control in this area to really pay attention to the details and do what is in the best interest of our students, keeping in mind age appropriateness with that education going forward. Thank you.
all right. Please call the roll.
Ms. Stanford,
Yes.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I went backwards. Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We made it through. So there are two that we disagree with, the resolution committee, and I'm sure that Mrs. Hoadley will help our representatives with what to do with that. So thank you for representing us. I have no other follow-up items from governance committee, so we're going to move on to the consent portion of our meeting, which includes items previewed by the board committee chairs during the committee of the whole meeting. The consent items from performance and monitoring committee are payroll, accounts payable, purchase orders, air travel, the resolution abating the tax heretofore levied for the year 2021 to pay debt services on taxable general obligation school bonds, which are alternative revenue source, Series 2016, which are qualified school construction bonds, the RFP 2208, the demographer services, our IFB 2214, the demolition of Stiles and Page Park schools, the RFP 2216, student record conversion and software, district management group learning partner on behalf of Riza Middle School, the Network for College Success on behalf of Guilford High School, the Regional Office of Education on behalf of Ellis Elementary, the Nearpod DBA Flocabulary on Flocabulary. Thank you. Flocabulary. Cute. On behalf of Lincoln Middle School. Learning A to Z bilingual licenses. Paradad Educational Consulting on behalf of Barber Two-Way Language Immersion, the 21st Century Community Learning Center's grant, is that supposed to be grant? And supporting contracts acceptance, the Workplace Addendum, Architectural and Engineering Services contract with Richard L. Johnson for the security vestibule design, the Architectural and Engineering Services contract with Bellis's firm of architecture for the Westview Elementary School roof replacement, the Tier 1 IT audit, and the Tier 1 Internet high availability and redundancy. We also have the consent items from Planning and Development Committee, the RFQ 2212 Civil Engineering Services, and from the Governments Committee, the meeting minutes of 10/26/21, the contract purchase orders, and the Freedom of Information log. Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent items?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any consent items board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Mr. Siegel.
8H.
Anyone else?
Yes, 8J.
8J. Any others? Seeing no lights, I'll ask you to, Ms. Fromm, please call the roll on the approval of consent items not pulled.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion and a second for the RFP 2216, the student record conversion and software.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And discussion?
So I didn't bring this up at the last meeting because I was just so thrilled that we chose one that was less than half of what one of the other vendors provided. But I was looking at this afternoon again, and one of the line items kind of just struck me funny is the vendor that we are choosing, their fee for storage of paper documents is $0. And the one that was more than twice as much, they're charging over $500,000 for the storage of paper documents. And wondering, are they actually storing our paper documents somewhere?
The vendor we're recommending, are they doing so?
Yes, sir.
Yes, they have their own temperature-controlled facility specifically for that purpose. It's a part of the product they sell along with the software.
Wow. So they have no charge for the actual use of physical real estate?
Not for the first 3 years, no, at the very least.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Where's that located?
And actually, I guess it would bear asking then, after 3 years, what's their charge?
We would have to make a decision at that point, much like the one we did here. Do we continue with them at whatever we negotiate at that time, use our own space, or find another third party to store it?
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
Where are they storing? I mean, is this local or is this?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Ship them somewhere? Do we have to pay to ship them?
Yeah, I don't think it's local, but I couldn't tell you specifically off the top of my head where it is.
It is not local?
No.
And would we actually ship them off campus because?
They would pack them up and take them on their own. That's part of the service.
We have those great big vaults and everything that we have now. But well, thank you for answering the question. Mr. O'Connor?
Yeah, if you've dealt with records management, the one thing I'll say is that the big players make their money on software and the services around that. So that's probably why the people that got this, they're in the more of that software side, and that's where they make their money. So that's where I'm assuming here, because clearly it does cost something, but that's got to be their business model as opposed to the other two, where their business model is they make a lot of their money off of the actual physical storing and all that. So, you know, it's just a different business model.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, I'll ask the coordinator to call the roll, please.
Mr. Allens?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCullough?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're going to entertain a motion and a second for the Network for College Success for Guilford High School.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Ms. Mohammed?
Yes, so my question is regarding this contract. Just looking at the details of it, it looks like the reason behind it was to address the freshman on-track rate at Guilford. And it also is a goal to address the equity goals of race not being a determining factor in the on-track rate. So I'm just curious how we came about selecting Guilford for this contract, or was this something that the principal proposed on their own? And also, is this going to be a goal for other high schools to have a similar contract as well with this organization? Because on-track is very important, especially when it comes to ethnicity at all of the high schools.
Right, all good questions. So this was selected by Guilford as a contract that they wanted to move forward with as a result of the experience that all of our high schools had in our academic return on investment work for their freshman academies. We had contracted with the Network for College Success with their Freshman Success Institute. Guilford found particular value in engaging in that work, focusing on the equitable outcomes as it related specifically to freshmen on track. And they'd like to take that work that they did with the freshman academy and expand it across all of the academies. So increasing the leadership capacity in the same regards that we did for the freshman academy assistant principals for all of their admin team and leadership of their academies. And so, yeah, to the second part of your question, is this something with the potential to expand to the other high schools? Absolutely, it could be. I think it's something that we'll want to look at Guilford over the course of the year and be able to gauge whether they felt like they got a return on investment similar to how they felt about the program participating with them last year with the Freshman Success Institute.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I think you just answered this, but just for clarity, so this was an organization that Guilford did business with last year, or was it all the schools?
It was each of the high schools as a part of the academic return on investment work that we've done with our freshman academies.
Okay,
and so this is an extension of that.
So all the high schools did work with this organization, and Guilford was the one that chose to want to continue to work with them for the Freshmen on Track.
For the Freshmen on Track, yes, but also expanding the work that they did in this professional development with their Freshman Academy last year, continuing it in their Freshman Academy this year, but also expanding it to their other academies.
Okay. Do we possibly know why other schools didn't choose to do the same, just out of curiosity?
Maybe because I was persuasive with the principal, because I feel like it's a good investment.
Yeah.
I had experience with it when I was a principal.
Right.
But no, that's conjecture, of course. I couldn't say, but again, I think there's opportunity to explore it moving forward.
Principals have the autonomy to make site-based decisions. This is a site-based budgeting decision at this point. So we provide some universal trainings for all principals, like we did with the freshmen, but this was a choice the Guilford principal made. The other high schools obviously didn't make that choice this year, but they would certainly have had the ability to and have the funds to if they would have wanted to.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, so this is one of the examples that I look to Dr. Jarrett's influence on and giving his input in how the school budgets. I really can appreciate that leeway given to administrators. Let me say that first, but I really would like you to weigh in just a little more in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson.
You didn't mean weigh in on the floor. You meant in general as people, because
no, not on the floor.
Be persuasive with the principals.
Exactly.
If we feel that there's okay, and Mr. Gallagher, obviously with experience with the program, could also step up with that. So, seeing no other lights, I'll call the roll on the Network for College Success.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
We are now on to the closed session consent agenda, including appointment of Sarah Jeske as the 12th-month Executive Director of Human Resources, the appointment of Colleen Kohler as the 12-month Executive Director of Nutrition Services, the appointment of Dustin Prince as the 12-month Dean at Roosevelt, the HR Organizational Report and Addendum. For student discipline, 4402 is expelled for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year through the first semester of the 22-23 school year. 4404 is expelled for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. 4405, the expulsion is held in abeyance contingent upon an expulsion and abeyance agreement for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year. 4406 is expelled for the remainder of the 2021-2022 school year through the first semester of the 2022-2023 school year. The following consent items for EIAs would include student 1087, 1088, 1089, 8272, 8278, 8282, 8283, 8284, 8285, 8286, 8287, 8289, 8290, 8291, 8292, 8293, 8294, 8296, 8297, 8298, 8299, 8300, 8301, 8302, 8303, 8304, 8305, 8306, 8307, You guys, it's all on one page. Is there a motion and a second to approve the closed session consent items?
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Are there any closed session consent items board members wish to have pulled for separate consideration? Seeing no lights on, I'll ask the coordinator to call the roll on the approval of the closed session consent items.
Mrs. McCulloch?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Ms. Stanford?
Yes.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes.
Mr. Rollins?
Yes.
Ms. Mohammed?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Other board member business, agenda recommendations. I think the only action steps we have are getting back to our speakers with dates and information. So if there's no further comment or agenda recommendations by the board, I'll take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.